very basic but very important commands on Linux and Unix systems. So I will just show you with examples. For example, the very basic commands that you see here are like ssh, su, sudo, hostname, ls, print working directory, making directory, cp, scp, and rsync. So I'll start with the first one, which is ssh. So we also call it secure socket shell or simply ssh. This is a protocol that is used to connect to your Unix or Linux system, and we need some tools to connect to it. So secure shell or secure socket shell. So this is providing an encrypted connection between the client through which you are connecting to your server. This is available in almost all type of Unix, Linux, or Mac operating systems. In Mac, this is called as terminal, and many other operating system also call it terminal. You can launch terminal and then you can connect to one of your Linux or Unix host using SSH command. Then there is another tool that is PuTTY. This is again the open source tool to connect to the Linux or Unix systems, and it also in the backend using the SSH to connect. So in Windows, there is PowerShell utility, and using PowerShell utility again, you can connect to your Linux or Unix systems. And PowerShell has inbuilt SSH module available there. And as the example showing here, you can see that we can use SSH with various options to connect to the Linux or Unix machine. When we talk about SSH, like what we need to do in order to connect to the Linux or Unix system. So we used to use SSH command, and then there are various options. Like let's say if you are connecting to a local machine, let's say you are the user who's trying to connect to one of your machine, be it local or be it remote. What you need to do, you need at least a username and your server name or the IP address, and then the SSH protocol which uses default port 22 to connect to the server. I will show you now how to use it using a command line. I will just be taking you through here. So let's say here I am on my Mac system, and now what I will do is I'll try to attempt to connect to one of the remote server. So as displayed in the PowerPoint slide, SSH then -i. So I will use this, and then you will see here it will prompt for the passphrase, and always for security reasons we should keep this password available there, so that if anyone is trying to hack in, trying any automated program to get into your server, he or she will not be able to do so, because it will always ask for the passphrase. And once I enter successfully, then you can see here we are successfully into the server. If I type now host name just to verify, I can see here that I'm into my server where I wanted to be. Now again, if I go back to the presentation, so this is how we are connecting to the server. So this is about the SSH. I have uh, just created one more tutorial that is dedicated to SSH and few more commands like scp, rsync in detail. So just you can also have a look on that. Now I'll go to another important command section, that is su and sudo. So su is referred to super user or root user. So when you are connecting to any of the server, usually we use a restricted username, and if you want to switch to the super user, then we use su command. So with su command you can have the elevated privileges to run special commands or special functions or special services which are actually owned or managed by root user. So that's why we use su here. For example, here let's say if you are willing to run or make changes into one of the web server configuration file, we can use su-c, and then we can just give the full path and we can edit it. Now I will show you example here. Like the dollar here is showing that I am a restricted user. I can also use id command to see what my username is and how it is being utilized here. So let's say now I will try to simply vi, that is the editor, to edit any configuration file, and let's say I'm going to edit here the ssl.conf file. and I enter here. Let's say now I will make any change here. For example, I'm typing here test, and now I will try to save it. But you see here, now we are getting error that can't open file for writing, because this user do not have privileges to update this system file. This is basically a system file, and restricted users cannot make any function. But now same function, if I want to use using being in the restricted area, then we can use the command that I have shown here, that is su, and then we will use the -c parameter, that is to pass on the command that we want, and then we can do it that way. So now let's do this way, su -c, and then in double quotes I will use this whole command section, that is I'm going to edit one special file here. Now see, it is asking for password. So the password here is being asked is the super user password, and in this case super user is always root. So now if I pass correct username and password, then I'm able to edit here. So let's say now what I will do, I will just add one command here, test comment for su demo, and now if I try to write and quit it, you see here this is written now successfully. So this is the benefit of su, that means switching user with root privileges or elevated privileges. Same way, if you simply do su, that means now we are switching from this restricted user to become a root user. So by default it always go to root user. So now if I pass in here the correct password, now I'm logged in as a root. You can see here now I'm as a root, and when it's root, then you can see here this hash sign, this switch user command, not only the super user but switch user. So that means, let's say if there is any user, any other user, let's say if there is any user like this, however at this moment there is no user, so it say do not exist, but if there is any other user, you can also use su to switch to another user. Now I'm coming back to the next point, that is the sudo. So sudo is actually the basic difference between su and sudo is su let you switch to a user, while sudo let you run some special commands or specific set of commands that any administrator want to run. So with sudo what we can do is, for example here with restricted user, if I am logged in, if I want to run ls-latr, which is shown here, if I'm allowed, then only I can run it, otherwise I cannot run it. So now I will demonstrate again. Let's say sudo ls-latr, and this user has sudo privileges, that's why it is able to run this command. If this would have not been allowed to run this command, then it will error out. If you switch to, let's say, any other directory, but here again I'm logged in with a restricted user, so I'm not supposed to log into this particular directory, so I'm getting permission denied. So that's why I demonstrated you su and sudo before, because now this user do not have sudo privileges to pwd. But let's say if I do pwd and then sudo, and then I do cd u01, so that is the benefit of sudo command. And sudo is in itself a very secure feature on Linux and Unix systems. For the details, I'm going to prepare one more tutorial that is dedicated to sudo only, so just stay tuned and watch that for more details on sudo. Next commands, and the other commands here, the important commands that you see here is host ls pwd. So host name is used to show what is the host name of your server, and if you have anything that you want to know about it, then always use man is actually manual command. So manual command is helpful to just look around for this particular command, that what options are available here. So you see here various options with host name are given here that you can use as per your requirement. So -a, -d, -f, -i is called with get host name, and then different get host name options are there. So like there are always various attributes or options with the commands, and you can always check that with with the man command. So man is meant for the manual. Same way, the ls command is going to show you the list of files and directories within your current directory. If you want to see current directory, we call that pwd, that is print working directory, and you see we are sitting in this directory. Now I do pwd, you see here, now I'm logged in there. At least it is letting me go with sudo, but still because of the permission issue, it again pulled me back to the current directory that you see here. So that is the benefit of having the sudo privileges, which is the special user privileges, and I will be covering this section in detail in another video. Now I will show you other commands, like let's say cd, that is changing directory. I will go to temp. Here is the temp directory, and then now another thing, if I want to check what is the disk size on my server, then how will I check that? So first I will use clear command. So for command for that is df-t and h, that is human readable format. So we can see what is the file system name, what is the type, what is the size, everything is displayed here, and the command is df. Again, if you want to have more detail about it, then use man command and then df. It will show you the complete description about this command, that how we use it and what are the various options that you can use to get more detailed information. So df report file system disk space users, and then if you go a bit down, you will see here all the various options: -a for all, -b for block size, -h, you see here, like, so it is always giving you the power of 1000, not 1024. So that means human readable format, -h, -i, -k. So there are various options, and it depends what kind of requirement you have when you are applying this command, and accordingly you can use the command here. So I will come out of it now. Next is du. So du, again, before I run this command, I will want to show you again same way. So man and then du. So now it will show you here. So this is to estimate file space uses. As you see here, this is used to check how much size for one of the files or directories which are available on your file system is there. You can use this command. So again, there are different options. Like very frequently I use -s and -h command. So h is again human readable, and at same way the s is giving the separate dir. So like it looks for summary of all the directories, files within it. So now I will show you how we check it. Let's say there is this directory and I use -sh, and I will just copy this. This is a system generated directory, and it is showing I don't have permission. So what I will do is I will maybe just create quickly one file here with touch command, test file dot text, and then with echo I will be entering test file to check size, and we will add it into this. So now you see here we have this file, and if I now do du-sh test file, you see here it's 4 kilobyte it is showing here. Now if I keep adding more text here, then the size will be growing, obviously. So like let's say if I now maybe I'm adding bit more things here, and then enter. Now we do again. So it's still 4K is the by default because it's not going beyond that, so that's why it's showing that. Once it is reaching 4000 bytes size, then it will start showing you the bigger size. So that we can do either by adding more values, but this is how you can evaluate the size of the files. Then next in the section is md, mkdir, and rm. So again, if you want to have a look, just man md, you see here it is showing here you multiple device driver, and then man mkdir make directories. So this is how mkdir test dir, and you do ls here. You see here it is available. Next is cp and scp. So cp and scp both are used to copy files and directories, but the basic difference between cp and scp is that scp is secure copy, so you can copy files across networks. Like, let's say if you have one server in Mumbai data center and one server in Chandigarh data center, then across these two locations, if you want to copy, then you can use scp. Same way, within same data center but two different servers, if you want to copy data, you have to use scp instead of cp. So cp is for local operations, that means on one server itself, and scp for remote operations if you want to copy. So let's say example here, I can give you scp. I want to make a copy of this file as test file dot bkp, and now if I do ls, you see here a backup file is created. So that is the benefit of cp. Same way, if you want to do scp, then scp, let's say test file, and then a remote server name, whatever it is, server name or ip, and then followed by the directory. Let's say if we want to use put something in the temp of remote server, then this is the command syntax you have to use. And same way, if there is a directory you are trying to copy, then you have to use -r, so that is to use the recursive operation. So scp -r, then the directory name, and then again the remote location where you want to place it. So this syntax is important to remember. Then another command in the list is rsync. Again, let's have a look into this. So rsync, very useful command when it comes for taking backups or doing automated backups for your important files and directories for your different projects. Then you can use rsync. Again, I'm repeating scp and rsync I'm going to use in detail in my another video, so just stay tuned for this.